that's what we'll be focusing most on when it comes to this class. So we'll be discussing basic concepts of video editing in Premiere Pro. There's a lot that we need to cover. For example, the first thing that we'll be covering is organization in Premiere Pro. For proper film editing, we need to make sure that we organize our files and all of that. Then we'll be understanding what timeline sequences and clips are and how you arrange them. Uh, in the next class, we'll be talking about how you cut, trim, and arrange clips, and then how you adjust audios and introduce basic transitions and effects within the edit that you're making. Then we'll move on to in our next class, we'll be moving on to creating titles, text, and graphics in Premiere Pro and Photoshop, and that's when we'll have our first assignment. This assignment will be about making your first reel or first video in any format that you like. We'll be discussing that more in the coming classes. Then we'll be using Premiere Pro in the next class to actually just get some tips and techniques to how to get those VFX graphics and all of those things that you put together to make your social media video more professional. We'll be then moving on to color correction and color grading, which is basically just making your video look much more aesthetic, much more professional, and much more film-like by changing the colors and all those things that we'll be learning in the previous classes, all those basic concepts. Then we'll be working towards audio editing, and that they're basic, which is essential for filmmaking. I feel like there are 4 facets of filmmaking. The first one, mise-en-scene, or to simplify it, just what you see on the frame, whether it's props, whether it's the composition. Then we have audio, which is again like 25% of what makes a film great. Then we have obviously the camera movement, and the fourth, editing. So these 4 facets are what we'll be basically focusing on, and editing will be the focus when we talk about film editing in this class. Hopefully we'll have more classes getting into depth of all these things if somebody wants to specialize or if you're interested in it. We'll then move on to storytelling and some basic camera techniques, and then we'll be, talking about how to plan for a shoot and how to edit that shoot and plan for that. I personally, when I work with different media houses and production houses, this is one of the most essential tasks when I'm talking about filming something or making something. So yeah, we'll be talking about that too. We'll be talking about how my experience as an assistant director helped me better understand film. Then we'll be working towards creating reels and social media content, and that's when we'll be talking a lot about what you can do as an artist who at home wants to first of all get into filmmaking, then make money through it. And then we'll be talking about different things that certain brands require. And I just want to check if we got a message. All right. So then we'll be talking about different brands and social media and how you basically engage them. So when you're working with different organizations, the biggest thing that they see is how you'll be representing their brand, whether it's in a reel or different videos. So it'll be a huge discussion in this class. So week 6, second class, where we'll be talking about how, you can basically work with a brand and make sure that they come back to you and help them get social media strategies and how you pitch to them, how you convince a brand to basically go for you rather than anyone else. Then we'll be in the 7th week. The first class will be about understanding film production and the different roles. So the basic idea behind this is that to make a film or to make an ad or in a big production, there are a lot of roles that one needs to fill. There's an editor, there's an assistant director, there's a director, there's a producer, even when you're editing, there are so many types of editors. The first one person makes the timeline, the second one makes the color correction or grading and makes it aesthetic. The third person adds on VFX, the fourth person makes the music, and then so on. So I really want to discuss all of these different roles that you can basically specialize in, whether it's animation, VFX, editing, and all of that, so that in the future you can actually work as a freelancer on, let's say, Upwork, Fiverr, or other websites, or even build your own network and then work with different media houses. That's what happens in my media house, Visual Prophecy, where when we get a project from, let's say, a PSL team or maybe Xiaomi, we together a whole team, and everybody who specializes in a certain task keeps on working on what they are, makes a big production, in the seventh week, second class, we'll be also talking about just how to build a career in filmmaking. We'll have two guest lecturers on these websites. And the second one, we'll be talking about networking and building relationships. Both of these are, again, important to find work, important to get into this industry. It's heavily based on networking and knowing people. So, and trust, where the work is up to a certain quality, and all of these things basically help you build relationships and get more work. Finally, we'll be wrapping up this course by critiquing our final project, which will be disclosed during the mid of your course, maybe like week 4, week 5, discussing half of the videos or work that we've done throughout the class for the final project. And the second class will be used to critique the second half or the batch of the class. Give some guidance on learning and improving in the future, because filmmaking and learning it is a journey. You need to be passionate about it, and eventually you will get there. So yeah, that's pretty much the scope of the work. So we'll be learning basics of digital, how to, edit and arrange media in Adobe Premiere, figure out how to put on graphic titles and basic color correction. We'll be talking about storytelling. We'll be talking about how different narratives are written and how different brands want you to tell their stories. And yeah, this will basically be an introduction to the film industry, and we will also be giving you some career guidance so that in the future, through this class. So yeah, that's pretty much what we'll be covering throughout the course. I see that we have a couple of people. Anyone, do you guys have any questions or anything that you want me to talk about? Or anything that you may want to see? All right, so yeah, we have Fahim raising his hand. What's up, Fahim?
So I just have one question. As you said, we are going to be learning basics of digital filmmaking, but you said that we are going to be learning one software like the Adobe Premiere Pro and the other one that I forgot the name of. But will the skills we learn in one software we can be translated into another program? Or so like if somebody wants to CapCut or
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I do believe that they should be translated in all those softwares. Again, these are just basics. These are concepts that you will be learning of how a film is made or how it is edited. And all of these concepts are applied in all of these softwares. Whether it's CapCut, whether it's DaVinci, whether it's Adobe Premiere, you'll be making a timeline. You'll be, correcting how your video looks, and you will be doing all those things that we will discuss in this class. And then you can definitely translate them to DaVinci Resolve or CapCut. Premiere Pro for me is just an industry standard. When we talk about brands, if you tell them you know how to use it, they really like that. So I believe that learning this, the more advanced software, will help you learn the simpler ones, which is CapCut or any other software that you may have on your phone. The point of this class is actually to make editing accessible to everyone, so you don't necessarily have to have Adobe Premiere Pro to really be a filmmaker when it comes to digitally being a filmmaker. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. We will definitely be working towards yeah, helping you translate this to different mediums and formats and different platforms. And as we go on about it, if the students want me to focus on different softwares and talk about more softwares, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So let's maybe move on towards getting into filmmaking and move on towards the first concept that I really wanted to talk about when we talk about this class. So we'll be discussing how basically a camera works. This is important to understand because this will help us edit the content that we get and understand what exactly it is made of and what we are editing. So we'll be going through the basics. This is something that nobody needs to memorize. It's just to help you get the concepts cleared when you're finally editing and working towards editing your different videos in the second or third class. So basically, camera just captures light. In the 16th century, people actually figured out that if if you pass on light through a small hole, the image will actually be inverted and be projected in front of you. This phenomena was called camera obscura, and people used it a lot, even Leonardo da Vinci, to actually project different things and then draw on them, or there were many other practical applications. Eventually, as technology progressed, we figured out ways to basically capture this phenomena, firstly on a piece of film or sheet that you probably see in old cameras, and then digitally, like you can see over here. So we'll basically be studying the basic concepts of how a camera works and what we're looking for to get the perfect amount of light uh, for your video. So before we begin really getting into what makes a camera and what we're basically looking for, I just want to know, what cameras do you have? For example, I over here have a DSLR. It's a pretty old one. Uh, it's a Canon 650D. So that's what I use to do mostly of my shoots and just coverage. So yeah, anyone up for telling me what camera they have, even if it's a smartphone camera or yeah, anything like that. Right. So no worries. Hopefully, we'll be getting a more engaging class in the future. Um, so yeah, there are different kind of cameras that can be used to actually make film or record stuff for digital filmmaking. Um, in this time of technology, we actually have some amazing cameras within our smartphones. So yeah, I feel like filmmaking is more than accessible for anyone, and all we need to do is just understand the basic concepts, and yeah, it will really help us get the best out of the this technology that we have in the palm of our hands, even if we don't have a DSLR. So, as I said, camera captures light. So how does it do that? There are three basic phenomenons that we look at when we talk about light and how the camera captures it. The first is called aperture, and yeah, just to make it simple, it's the opening of a lens through which light passes and enters the camera. Just wanted to check if we have something, a question or anything. I heard a notification.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question because I think you are using some terms like aperture and cameras. I
Uh-huh.
would like you to explain or define each term to them in order for them to understand what they um, because right now I'm in the class, and I don't understand these technical terms that you are using.
Yeah,
So
for sure. That's what we'll be talking about for sure. So, as I said, aperture is the opening of the lens through which the light passes to enter the camera. So, what exactly does that mean? It basically means, if you see the diagram over here, so in your camera lens, there is a hole that basically captures light. It opens uh, to actually get in as much light as it needs. There are different numbers that you use to actually define how much the camera hole is open, which is expressed in f stops. So f1 basically means that the camera's hole is open the most. 1.4 means it's passing on a little less light because it's closed a little, and as the number increases, the hole basically shrinks. So as I discussed earlier, camera basically captures light. That's all it does mainly. And that's what we need to understand, that there are three facets of capturing light. And the first one is this: how big of the hole in the sensor is. So yeah, the larger the number, the more closed the hole will be and less light that we'll see. What does that do? So what it does is, it again, if you see the diagram, the smaller the number, sorry, the bigger the number, so F32 will mean less light, and let's say F1 will mean more light. So really see this diagram. If you're confused about aperture, again, you don't need to memorize these terms when we're talking about camera. You just need to understand them. So yeah, anyone with any questions, if they're confused about what aperture is, or do we understand what exactly it is? Uh, well, I'm gonna take that as yeah, we do. So again, just making sure that we understand. Aperture is basically how much light the camera is taking in through the hole, and how big it is. So f1, which is the smallest number, is the most amount of light that a camera can take. F32 is less amount of light as the camera hole shrinks. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. And moving on to the next concept. So the first
yes,
concept
I
was,
have another question.
yeah, for sure.
I would like to know, how is light affecting the video, and why is it important in making film or video or
Uh,
reel for Facebook?
so yeah, that's a good question. So when we are editing reels, a big part of editing them or making them more aesthetic, or making the colors pop or all of that, is actually understanding light, and understanding how much exposure, that's what we call light in film terms, how much exposure your camera has gotten and your edit needs. This is something that we'll be talking about in this class further too. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Akram.
Yes, thank you. I got the question.
Awesome. So the next thing, when we talk about, again, light or exposure as we use it in the film world, it's the shutter speed. Now, what is shutter speed? So shutter speed basically is how much the camera basically stays on, or like the shutter stays on and gets the light for. So when, to understand basic cameras, you probably heard of that like click that you hear when you're taking a picture, right? So that's basically the shutter of the camera opening. Uh, so yeah, when you click a photo, the camera shutter opens, and the light passes on through the hole that we were talking about. This one right over here. I hope that you can see my cursor. So yeah, so there is a shutter in front of this hole, which is something that is very important when we talk about exposure. So shutter speed basically is when how much time the shutter is open, right? So this is something that is measured in seconds or fractions of a second. A fast shutter speed will mean that we will get crisp movement, like frozen movement, uh, but also less light. It makes sense, right? Because let's say if we open a door uh, and there's light in the other room and no light in the other room, and we open it for like half a second, it'll give us half a second's worth of light. If we open it for like half a second, it'll give us half a second's worth of light. So basically, shutter speed essentially means that. So let's see the diagram a little. That will help us explain what shutter speed basically is.
Yeah, I have one other question. Sorry, please, for interruption. I would like to know if you can show us pictures of different lights, or if you have. Otherwise, we can also have that in the next class.
This we do have it by the end of this slide, so we will definitely be
Okay.
looking at that by the end of this class. So yeah, thank you for the
Okay,
question.
my apologies. Thank you very
No,
much.
no, no, all questions are appreciated. It's a good thing. The more questions that you ask, the more fruitful the class will be. So don't hesitate to ask me questions. So coming back to the shutter speed, so it is measured in seconds or a fraction of a second. So when we talk about the shutter speed being one, that basically means the shutter will be open for 1 second. What will that entail? It will entail that we will have more light. Uh, if we say that it's 1/2 or half a second, it will mean that it will be open for half the amount of time, which means that we will get half the light. If it's 1/4 of a second, quarter, then we get quarter of the light, and so on. So this is measured in fractions of a second, and yeah, the lower the number, the lesser the light that we'll get. And again, this is one of the three most important concepts of light and camera. Um, Finally, we have ISO, which is basically a digital thing, not really a natural phenomena. So before this, we were talking about how uh, the aperture is the pinhole that the camera's light is passing through. Obviously, the bigger the hole, the more light that we get. And the shutter speed was basically how much time the shutter is open for. So again, that also entails the more time that we have, the more light that we'll get. ISO basically is a digital thing. So it basically tells how sensitive our sensor that we have in our digital camera is to light exposure. So some sensors are very, what do you say, very sensitive to light, and even a little light gets a lot of detail in those pictures or videos. And some sensors are very not very sensitive, and so yeah, what they do is they capture less light, even if the same for the same amount of light they capture less. So these ISO values are captured or talked about in different and you'll be capturing lesser light. So low number means lesser light, to keep it simple. So one would think that why not capture everything with a higher ISO? So it'll just give us more light, and that will mean better results, I guess. Well, the problem is this is something that we digitally enhance. So let's see two different ISO stops. The first one is 100. The second one is 6400. So if you see closely, the 100 one is much clearer and does not have any digital artifacts, but the 6400 has some slight dots or variations or just that roughness of an old camera per se. So the higher the ISO, the higher the chances of getting these artifacts and this noise. Basically, this is called noise, what we're seeing over here. So it's usually preferred to have a low ISO just to make sure that the picture is clean and we don't get that noise or grain. It's something that we can fix in post, and that's why we're talking about these concepts. But the best thing is to actually get them right in the camera. But the world isn't perfect, and majority of the times whoever's shooting that content actually gets maybe like 1 out of 5 things wrong, and you need to fix it in post. So that's why we're really learning why uh, exposure is important. So exposure basically again is a mixture of all these three concepts that we talked about. Shutter speed, which is again how long the shutter of the camera is open, which is measured in seconds and fractions of seconds. So the more the time, the brighter the image will be. Then we are finding a balance between shutter speed and aperture. Aperture being how much the whole of the camera is opened to get light. So higher the number, the lesser the light we'll be getting. Lower the number, the more light that we will be getting, and which basically means that the sensor or the camera's uh, what do you say? The camera receives in more light through that. And then there's ISO. So the lower the number, the less bright it will be. So higher will mean more bright. So we're basically finding a point over here, a balance between these three main things to get the perfect exposure for our picture, which again, as an example, we can see how different exposure changes really change your image. So you can definitely see that, when we have f32, we're getting a lot less light. And when we have, let's say, f1, we get a lot of light. But in an ideal situation, we're basically looking to get a picture somewhere around here, right? So yeah, and again, you don't necessarily have to get a picture like this to make it perfect. It's always a creative choice. Maybe you're feeling, I guess, gloomy and you want to take a dark picture. You go for this. Maybe you're feeling, a little happy and you want something bright and have more color. You'll be getting this picture. So it's a creative choice, but obviously you would never want a picture like this, or never want a picture like this. So you just find a balance for yourself when we're taking pictures. And essentially pictures are just uh, sorry, a video is just a bunch of pictures being played together really fast. So that's why we really needed to understand how pictures are taken and how the camera perceives light, to really understand what makes a video and film. So yeah, that's essentially the first lesson that we'll be learning in this class. And yeah, the summary will be that the main concept that we learned is what exposure is. Exposure is how much light the camera takes in. And there are three things that really determine how much light the camera will take in. Aperture, which is the lens opening through which the light enters the camera, shutter speed or time, which refers to how long the camera shutter is open for exposure, ISO setting, which control how sensitive the camera sensor will be, and yeah, we just find a balance between these three to get the right exposure and the right picture that we're looking for. Video is again multiple images being played really fast. And yeah, a homework that I was going to give you guys was to find out more about the first video recording that was ever made. Maybe get a YouTube video, maybe just read up an article. It'll really help you understand uh, how videos are made, and this is something we'll discuss in the next class too, obviously. But yeah, I just wanted you guys to do the research to really understand how cameras developed from a pinhole box, the camera obscura that we talked about a little while ago. Understand.
Yeah, I have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would like to know after this course, how are they going to use the video editing skills that they are going to learn? For example, they can create their own courses, they can make their own films, they can create their own documentaries. They can
Yeah.
also they can also work for other clients. I
Yeah.
mean, like working for other people, creating ads, video ads, showing them different tools. So I was wondering if if this was a part of, you know, like asking them, it's going to be um, in line for each student, or the course will take one project as a whole, and that will allow them to work on their own.
So yeah, this is what I try to achieve through this course, and we'll be basically, molding this as we move on and as we figure out what the students really need. But the main essential thing that we'll be teaching in this course is how you edit a video and put it on social media and make it professional. But along with learning this, we'll be learning what the filmmaking world is, and giving my introduction a little more. I work with a production house, and I work as an assistant director and a creative associate. To make a film, there are so many roles that need to be filled, and these roles, I think 60 to 70% are just online roles that someone can fulfill. So you can work, let's say, as a junior editor in Fiverr, Upwork, or with some company that you get uh, contacted through. And maybe you can work as a VFX artist. Maybe you can work as an animator. So my goal is to first teach you the basics of getting into all of these, and then really guiding you towards what you could do. Maybe one person in our class wants to be an animator, a very lucrative thing to do actually. So I'll basically be guiding them towards how you can be an animator. Somebody might want to, even write scripts for people, and commercial scripts are actually a very well-paying job. I do that too myself. So we'll be talking about that too. So my goal is to essentially teach you the basics that are used throughout the world in filmmaking, digital video editing, or just YouTube videos, and then get you into a path which basically gives you a career in whatever you're more interested in, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's editing, whether it's being a director, assistant director, or anything that you can do online or at the place. So hopefully that answers your question, Akram. um, yeah, so we have a question from Fahim too. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so my question was, I have a Google Pixel 5 phone, and I do not have, I just checked while you were talking about aperture and shutter speed and everything. I don't have any settings in there to change the aperture or the ISO setting. Will that affect me, or should I just work with the hardware that I have?
No, not really. You should work with the hardware that you have. And a lot of these cameras, for example, I have a Samsung phone with me over here. So they have two different apps for professional video or photography and the simple one that we do. So, like, just learning that app, for example, in the Samsung that I have, the main app is just the picture app that we usually have. And then there's a camera raw app. separately, which does the ISO and all of that. And again, the whole point of helping you guys understand the ISO, shutter speed, and all of that is for you to translate that into your editing, because the camera is essentially capturing these things, right? Three things. Uh, in your phone, the app that you're using, it's basically doing it automatically, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But you need to know these things so that you can edit them and correct those little things that they've done. uh, so I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, that was pretty much the gist of today's class, and just of what we'll be talking about in the course. Again, we'll be covering so many different topics when it comes to filmmaking, editing, and we'll be using three professional softwares: Photoshop, Premiere Pro, and Ableton. All of these, if you specialize in, have a different career path to them. People who specialize in Ableton or the video editing software, they mix master, which are again a few different concepts in editing audio, and all of these concepts have specialization and people that have mastered and get paid for that. Then we'll be talking about Adobe Premiere Pro, in which we'll be editing the timeline, which again, when it comes to filmmaking, is a different role in itself. Then we'll be talking about color correction, or how to make your video aesthetically pleasing and the colors right, which again is a job in itself in the film industry, and something that you can do in your home, sitting on your desk, and get paid very well for it. We'll be talking about the basics of VFX and how those are used in reels, very popular these days, like meme marketing, right? So this is something that you should be able to do by the end of this class for yourself. And this is something that I did for marketing house too, um, which was essentially just making posts and those VFX videos that really help you market your content. And this is a job or post in itself that can be done online. And then we have all of those things that I talked about, which can lead you to a very different career path, in the palm of your hands. Basically, you can do it at your home. And again, I'm just trying to facilitate you to get into filmmaking, your type of filmmaking, whatever it is. It may be something that you do through CapCut and then post through social media, or it may be working with a big media house or production house, let's say in Lahore, where you're just making edits for them, or timelines for them, or just color correcting for them, or color grading for them, or doing all those things that we will learn in this class. So we'll be setting a strong base for you to really understand this, because at the end of the day, all of these lessons are available online everywhere. But the problem is that it's really hard to navigate what to learn.
Accounting World ستاسو کامیابی ته هوډمن دی. آیا تاسو هغه ماهر کس یاست د نوي فرصتونو په لټه کې دی؟ آیا تاسو غواړئ له هر ځای څخه کار وکړئ او خپل د خوښې وړ مسلک څخه عاید ترلاسه کړئ؟ پرولانسر د فریلانسینګ لومړنی پروګرام دی افغانستان کې. پرولانسر ستاسو سره د آنلاین مسلکي پروفایل په وده کې مرسته کوي. ستاسو کلیدي مهارتونه مشخص کوي، لکه ټایپینګ، ډاټا انټري، کاپي پیسټ، فوټوشاپ او ډیزاین. د هر پلیټفارم لپاره مخصوص مسلکي پروفایل جوړ او ورته وده ورکړئ. د هر پلیټفارم لپاره تر 7 کلیدي مهارتونو لیست جوړ کړئ، لکه فایور. تاسو کولی شئ د امریکا بانک او ټول نړیوال بانکي حسابونو له لارې تادیات ترلاسه کړئ. او کله چې د پیسو د ترلاسه کولو وخت وي، موږ به تاسو ته وښیو چې څنګه په پاینیر کې حساب جوړ کړئ. خپل ځان په فیسبوک، ټیک ټاک، انسټاګرام، لینکډین، واتساپ، برېښنالیک او فیسبوک ګروپونو له لارې نړۍ ته معرفي کړئ. تر ټولو غوره لا دا چې فریلانسر به ستاسو د نړیوال پیرودونکو سره وصل کړي، لکه امازون مرچنټ، د فروشي پې او نور. همدانن د فریلانسر سره یو ځای شئ او په خپلو مهارتونو او استعدادونو سره د افغانستان راتلونکي روښانه کړئ. تاسو کولی شئ په فایور، لینکډین، اپورک او نورو پلیټفارمونو کې هم کار ومومئ. همدا اوس اکاونټینګ ورلډ انسټیټیوټ کې نوملیکنه وکړئ. نو ستاسو د بریالیتوب لپاره هوډمن یم.
to use that hardware? The answer to which was pretty obvious. It's perfectly fine. But it also depends on what you're doing. So if you're working for, let's say, a big media house, they probably will use big cameras. But if you're working for, let's say, a social media company or working as a marketeer for someone, obviously you can use your phone to record those pictures or videos that you may need. So yeah, I will be, I guess, calling upon you guys to really know what you guys are here for and yeah, how I can help you. So let's start with Sharukhullah Khan. Hopefully you can hear me. Shahrukh, are you there?
Hello, sir.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Ji Shahrukh.
Sir.
So just wanted to know why you're here in the class and what you hope to learn and any questions that you may have. And feel free to ask any sort of question.
No, I don't have any question, sir. If I find any question, I will ask you.
All right, for sure. Thank you so much. And just wanted to know, so why are you in this class? What do you want to do? Are you here for social media marketing? Are you going to post videos? Or, yeah, do you want a career in film?
World ستاسو کامیابی ته هوډمن دی. آیا تاسو هغه ماهر کس یاست چې د نوي فرصتونو په لټه کې دی؟ آیا تاسو غواړئ له هر ځای څخه کار وکړئ؟
We tutor in learn a skill in videos.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to having you in the class, and we will definitely be getting to a point where we will be editing our own videos within the first month. Thank you so much, Shahrukh. Really appreciate. Oh, sorry, I got your name wrong, by the way. I'm really sorry about that. But yeah, I really appreciate the question, and hopefully I'll be seeing more of you in the class. So, any other questions from any of you guys? So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for the questions. But yeah, we will definitely be working towards a holistic course where we'll be learning every kind of video editing and the way to basically get into it. So yeah, that is essentially our time. And yeah, thank you so much for showing up for the class. And hopefully I will be seeing you guys in the future to learn how to, make films, make edits, and hopefully find a career in filmmaking and editing. Thank you.
تاسو کامیابی ته هوډمن دی. آیا تاسو هغه ماهر کس یاست چې د نوي فرصتونو په لټه کې دی؟ آیا تاسو غواړئ له هر ځای څخه کار وکړئ او خپل د خوښې وړ مسلک څخه عاید ترلاسه کړئ؟ پرولانسر د فریلانسینګ لومړنی پروګرام دی افغانستان کې. پرولانسر ستاسو سره د آنلاین مسلکي پروفایل په وده کې مرسته کوي. ستاسو کلیدي مهارتونه مشخص کوي لکه ټایپینګ، ډاټا انټري، کاپي پیسټ، فوټوشاپ او ډیزاین. د هر پلیټفارم لپاره مخصوص مسلکي پروفایل جوړ او ورته وده ورکړئ. د هر پلیټفارم لپاره تر 7 کلیدي مهارتونو لیست جوړ کړئ.